What's going on, everyone? Welcome back into the channel. So although that horrible loss last weekend, 19-17 against, at the time, 1-5 Denver Broncos happened, we still have to look into the PFF grades from this game. So in today's video, we're going to dive down into all the PFF grades for every player on both offense and defense for the Green Bay Packers and see who PFF has as some of the underperformers in this game. Because obviously when we watch the game, we see certain players doing well and certain players doing not so well, and you kind of make a mental note of that. And I like to add extra context to that with looking into the PFF grades, and I do this after every week. So if you do like that sort of thing, definitely go click the like button down below. It shows me to keep making these videos, and also click subscribe if you are a new viewer here. And also leave a comment down below if you want to see a half year in review for PFF grades after next week's game against the Vikings. So that means I'll go in and look at every player's overall season grade and how they rank with the rest of the league. Let me know in the comments below if that's something you guys want to see. Before we dive into the PFF grades of week 7, I want to give a quick shout out to MojoFantasy, who sponsors this video and is cool enough to allow me to give away a signed Jordan Love jersey. Now this giveaway ends at the end of October, so that means you only have 5 days to enter if you haven't already. And if you didn't already know what MojoFantasy is, it's a crazy new app that turns sportsbooks odds and selection into fantasy contests. So what that means is there are thousands of props to pick from MLB to NFL, and obviously we would be focusing on the NFL here. And the better your portfolio performs based on the picks you made, the more money you earn. And the props are also able to be bought and sold live, which is the only fantasy app that allows you to do so. So if you have an Aaron Jones over on rushing yards and you see him getting less and less snaps, you can actually sell it and cut your losses. So the way you enter in this signed Jordan Love jersey, which awesome signature he has on his jerseys here, is you go download the MojoFantasy app by clicking the link down in the description. It's that simple. And to get an extra entry, if you deposit $10, they'll actually match your deposit up to $100. So definitely go check out MojoFantasy today, and I appreciate them for supporting this channel. All right, so without further ado, let's dive into the PFF grades. Week 7, Packers versus Broncos, and I guess we'll just start on offense. I don't think either the defense or the offense necessarily performed better than one of the other. So we're going to start on the offense. So if we bring up the screen here, we see on the top of the list is Zach Tom with an 84.1, 79.3 pass block, and an 84.6 run block. Really nice to see good run blocking here by an offensive lineman. Probably one of the first times this season I can bet that a Packers offensive lineman had over an 80.0 run blocking grade. That's how bad this run blocking offensive line has been. And Zach Tom's been the most consistent offensive lineman on this entire offensive line. So he's had a really good season so far. I can't say that for some of the interior guys. So good job, Zach Tom, in this game. Tay Wicks, the second highest graded player on this list. I feel like every time Tay Wicks is on the field, this dude is making plays, and he still only saw 14 snaps. Tay Wicks needs to see more snaps. This guy simply gets open. I believe a couple weeks ago I saw a stat, he might not be there now, that he was #1 in getting open against man coverage. This guy knows how to route run. He knows how to get open. He's super shifty, and as I said it before, the way he moves reminds me of Davante Adams. Get Tay Wicks more snaps. Even if he's throwing the football, the dude's making plays. He had a 77.5. Aaron Jones was third on this list, only 23 snaps, but had a 75.3. Emmanuel Wilson had 5 snaps, a 73.8. Ben Sims had 4 snaps. He had that crucial 4th down catch. He had a 71.4. A.J. Dillon had 36 snaps compared to Aaron Jones' 23. He had a 70.2. I thought A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones did the best with what they were given. So there wasn't great blocking, and they still made some decent runs in that game. I mean, Denver's rush defense was the worst in the NFL, and yet this offensive line still couldn't block them. And we still really didn't run the way I expected against that defense. This running offense just has been abysmal. We see John Runyon here, which is usually a good pass blocking guard, had a 41.8 pass block grade and a 71.0 run block grade. It's usually the other way around, but it's likely this case because of Denver's defensive line being so poor against the run, but yet we still didn't gash them like we should have. Jaden Reed, 31 total snaps. He had a 62.6. Romeo Dobbs, 52 total snaps, 62.5. Jordan Love at 60.1. He's kind of been around this mark pretty much every single game except for last against Las Vegas. We see he's kind of around that low to mid 60 every single game, and his average is a 64.1. I know a lot of former quarterbacks that do quarterback analysis shows, such as Kurt Warner, even Kurt Benkert's talked about him. JT O'Sullivan has an awesome show. They're all basically on the same page saying it really hasn't been Jordan Love's fault why this offense hasn't been clicking. They're basically saying that the rest of the offense is very inexperienced and nothing has been working, and it's not all on Jordan Love, which I can somewhat agree with that. I think there is a lot left on the field, and Jordan Love can definitely clean up some things, but I wouldn't put it all on his back, and he hasn't been terrible, and I'm thinking this offense can still turn it around and can still, get better. Samori Toure, a 58.9. Luke Musgrave, a 58.8. He does have an ankle injury. I think he's still not practicing today. There'll be an injury update also today after this video, a little bit later, but he is out of the walking boot today, so that's good. Hopefully Luke Musgrave can be ready soon. Who knows if he'll even be ready this week. He had a 58.3. Tucker Kraft at 57.9. He had a lot more snaps this game, 32 total snaps there. Watson, 57.6, has kind of been invisible since returning, but he is back to practice, which is a good sign. Josh Nijman only had 4 snaps, 54.4. If Josh Myers can't go, Josh Nijman will likely be at right tackle, Zach Tom at center this week. And speaking of Josh Myers, one of the lowest graded guys here, like usual, a 50.4, DeGuara a 49.7, Rasheed Walker a 47.5, so he's really been struggling these past 3 weeks, and Elton Jenkins, the lowest graded Packer on offense, a 45.8. And honestly, I thought it was a bad game for Elton Jenkins, and this kind of just reiterates that he didn't have a good game against the Broncos. Now looking at the blocking on offense, we're going to look at pressures allowed. So Jordan Love didn't get sacked once, so in terms of that, that's good, but Rasheed Walker allowed 3 pressures, John Runyon allowed 3 pressures, Elton Jenkins allowed 2 pressures, A.J. Dillon a pressure, and Luke Musgrave a pressure. Not too bad. The pass blocking offensive line wasn't that bad last game. Only allowed 10 pressures, 8 hurries, and 2 hits. And honestly, my quarrel with the offensive line hasn't been pass blocking. I thought it's actually been pretty good in that regard. It's the run block. The run blocking offensive line has just been horrible this year. So now let's go over the defensive grades for week 7. At the top here, we see JJ Enagbare. He only had 18 total snaps, but a really, really nice PFF grade, an 85.4, 76.3 run defense, 72 tackle, 71.1 pass rush. He had 3 total pressures, a hit, 2 hurries, and 2 assist tackles. So really nice game by Enagbare here. Rashawn Gary, next on this list, he had 40 total snaps, the most snaps he's had all season. Again, still a high grade, 82.9, 84.0 pass rush. He had 6 total pressures. Every time they keep giving Rashawn Gary more snaps, this dude just continues to rush the passer and get more and more pressure. So I want to see his snap count keep going up, and hopefully that'll help getting home to the quarterback. Brenton Cox Jr. is third on this list, but only had 3 snaps, a 74.8. No pressures, but hopefully he can start to see some more snaps with now Justin Hollins officially being off the roster. I know they cut him, then brought him back, and then cut him again. So Brenton Cox should be seeing some more snaps. Rudy Ford continues to be one of the higher rated defenders on this team, a 69.7, 83.0 tackle grade. Looking at his season grades, he's at a 74.9 overall grade, which actually I would assume ranks pretty high for all safeties in the NFL. Rudy Ford has been very, very solid this year, and he's going to have to step up even more now that Darnell Savage was placed on IR. Devontae Wyatt, a 69.1. He had 2 pressures. Eric Wilson, a 68.1, only had 8 snaps, obviously kind of coming in with Devondre Campbell still out. Colby Wooden, 64.3. He had 19 snaps. Quay Walker, about average in this game, 62.1. He had a pressure. He had 5 total tackles, only 1 missed tackle. He had a 62.1 grade. Anthony Johnson Jr. saw 4 snaps. This is going to go way up now that Darnell Savage is out. John Owens will likely get the start, but I don't know how long that leash is going to be on John Owens. I haven't been too impressed with him, and I want to see Anthony Johnson Jr. So hopefully he can, get some snaps and meaningful snaps and make some plays and earn his spot maybe next to Rudy Ford until Darnell Savage is ready to come back. Lucas Van Ness, 16 total snaps and a 59.6. Preston Smith, a 59.6 and 2 pressures. He had 42 snaps. Rasul Douglas, a 58.3. Pretty bad run defense grade, pretty bad tackle grade. He actually missed 2 tackles, so not a great tackling day by Rasul Douglas. I feel like the Packers as a whole just didn't tackle well at all in this game. Isaiah McDuffie at 57.0. He's been average to below average since filling in for Devondre Campbell. Devondre Campbell has returned to practice this week, so hopefully he'll be back against the Vikings. Carl Brooks at 56.1, Darnell Savage at 56.1, TJ Slayton 54.1, Keyshawn Nixon 50.1. Nixon has kind of underperformed all year. He has a couple good games we see here, week 2 and week 3. We're at around 70 average grade there, but the rest just very, very bad. It kind of has been disappointing in the slot so far this year. Carrington Valentine at 49.2. He hasn't been too hot in the regular season. He was shining all preseason, and then the snaps he does get in the regular season, he's kind of been picked on and beat pretty bad. He wasn't this game. He allowed 6 receptions. John Owens, a 48.9. Already talked about him. And Kenny Clark, a 43.6. Pretty crazy to see Kenny Clark all the way down here. He definitely needs to play better. And quickly to wrap things up, just want to go over the coverages. So I was just talking about Carrington Valentine having a rough game. He allowed 6 receptions on 7 targets for 89 yards. Quay Walker allowed 4 on 4 for 27. Isaiah McDuffie allowed 2 on 3 targets for 12. Nixon allowed 2 on 3 for 19. Rasul allowed 3 receptions on 3 targets for 29. John Owens allowed 1 on 2 for 5. So Russell Wilson had a pretty easy time passing against our defensive backs. So those are all the grades from week 7, Packers versus Broncos. I think they are pretty accurate. There wasn't too many here that I kind of disagreed with. Usually every week there's a couple that I'm like, I don't really agree with that. I think that person should be lower. I think that person should be higher. I feel like this kind of reflects exactly how that game went, if I'm being honest. PFF isn't the end-all, be-all. It's just good to have extra context, and it's nice to see for pressures and coverage matchups and blocking and all of that sort of thing. So again, leave a like down below if you do like this sort of thing, and comment if you want a mid-season PFF review down below. But that about does it for this one. I'll catch you on the next one, and as always, go Pack Go.